So here we are. Hello, Facebook. We're here with Morra Aarons-Mele.
Hello.
We are here with her new book, Hiding in the Bathroom. And we were really tempted to do it in the bathroom, right? But we decided that might be TMI. Agree?
It's a beautiful bathroom you have here at your office, though. It is very lovely, scented candle and all.
Exactly. So anyway, we're here with Morra Aarons-Mele, and we're just kind of giving a moment. The way Facebook Live works, Facebook best practices mean that you want to give everybody a chance to come and join. So I might be a little bit repetitive at the beginning, and then we're going to get into an amazing conversation with a woman who I have admired from afar for a long time, and really have known you as a champion of women in the digital space. And then, as if that wasn't enough, everything you had done with women online, women's movements, you had 3 babies, and underachiever that you are, you also had to write a book. So today, what we're really going to be talking to Morra about is this amazing book, Hiding in the Bathroom. So welcome, Facebook community, welcome Everywhere Agency friends, welcome Everywhere Society, and I see a lot of folks joining. So, and welcome Morra, who's here in Atlanta in Everywhere Agency offices from Boston. So I just want to say I love this book so much, and the entire title is Hiding in the Bathroom, an introvert's roadmap to getting out there when you'd rather stay home. I love this book because I'm an extrovert. I am a wild, crazy, I'm an Irish drunk extrovert.
You are the person, so we see each other at blogger conferences a lot and influencer conferences, and I'm the one heading up to my room to hide, and Danica is the one holding court and talking to everybody, and me thinking, oh my God, why can't I be more like you?
Well, I will say it takes a lot to be an extrovert, and the truth is there's so many pieces in this book that made me wonder, am I really an extrovert? Because if you think about anything, we're all on a continuum. So extroverts also need to be recharged. I just get recharged in different ways. But for me, reading the book helped me understand the life of an introvert, and also helped me understand how to better interact with introverts. And also in our office here at Everywhere Agency, because we do go to blogging conferences all the time, one of the things that comes up is, what is it like for those introverts who are at a conference, and how do you go about it safely? So I think those are some of the things we'll talk about today.
And I just want to say one thing before we start, for the audience out there. One is that I also am a very anxious introvert, so I think for me my anxiety is almost even more of a factor than my introversion. And then the second, so we can talk about that, we talk about social anxiety, which I know is huge at conferences and in social media, let's face it. And then also, I mean, I'm not a quiet introvert. I'm not quiet, I'm not shy, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about, that you can't be an introvert if you aren't quiet, and that's not true.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many layers, I think, in this book. To me, reading it, I thought, this is not just a book about introverts. This is a book about really defining who you want to be in your career and how you want to step up to the plate. Mm-hmm. And probably the biggest takeaway for me was the fact that we define success with being out there. Mm-hmm. Totally. And in your book, you interviewed so many people. You interviewed CEOs. You interviewed successful men and women, and you found that the typical definition of extrovert and success do not go hand in hand, correct?
That's right. And I mean, I think what's really hard is that we have a very sort of male alpha, again, out there crushing it definition of what success means. It means you're fearless. It means you never get tired. It means you never need a moment alone. It means you never give up. I mean, you never have lunch alone. I mean, there's a million book titles, right, that I could quote that we've all sort of grown up on, right? And the truth is, that's not true. And B, that you have a choice. I think that if you are a really ambitious person, if you're an overachiever, you were raised to always get the best grades and always try your hardest, which many of us women, let's face it, we are. It would never occur to you to take a step back, to not go to a networking event, to say no to a project, to have a smaller business or influencer presence maybe than you thought you should. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in the book and really be honest about and highlight lots of stories about is that you can define your own success. And if you, like me, are not temperamentally able, because of your anxiety, because you're an introvert, because you're a little bit reclusive, you're a hermit, to crush it every day, that is okay. There are workarounds, and you can still be pretty darn successful.
I mean, there's so many things to learn from this book. There's a phrase that really resonated with me, and it's achievement porn. Let's talk about achievement porn.
I also use the term entrepreneurship porn because that is also one of my bugaboos, and I think that you will all relate. My favorite example is you always read about the mompreneur who created this billion-dollar baby food company, right? Oh, I was just experimenting with recipes one day, and oh, boom, I created this billion-dollar mom company. I think that we all read these stories, and we all share these stories on social media, and our current narrative is such that we really glamorize success stories in a way that I find very overwhelming. I have to admit, I come into your beautiful office here and I feel a bit overwhelmed. How come I don't have such a beautiful office? I feel like I'm doing something wrong. We have been raised to always want to do more and always sort of have the most that we can, and the porn element is that we make it seem glossy and we fetishize it, and it's totally false because I don't see all the difficulties that happen day to day. And when we read about these entrepreneurs who never take no for an answer and end up creating a unicorn company, we don't see all the sacrifices they make, right? All the trade-offs. And so I just want more real talk about what it's like.
Absolutely. I think the real talk is so important. And the one thing I want to say to you about the big office, remember, I do not have 3 little children at home. I push my kids out the door. And so I'm at kind of a different point in the career for you. I do remember when I launched my agency, interestingly enough, I launched it in the basement of my house.
Really?
And at one point I realized I couldn't recruit anymore because interviews in somebody's basement was not doing it.
Maybe not the best.
And I really didn't want to leave my house. And I didn't want to be out the door. I wanted to be there when my kids came home. So there are choices that you make along the way. And I just have to say, one thing that impresses me about you is you've made a lot of interesting choices. I think I read that you said you had 9 jobs.
Yep.
By the time you were 30.
I quit them.
You quit them. And so it wasn't like, poof, I'm going to be a hermit entrepreneur. You really did a lot of trial and error. So talk about that.
I'm still doing trial and error.
Okay.
Right? I mean, let's face it don't end. I think that I was that girl who always did the best. And I graduated during the Bill Clinton era. It was very easy to get a job. I was in the early days of the internet, and I would keep getting these jobs that were very prestigious, and I would cry in the bathroom all day. I had panic anxiety. I had clinical depression. I would just one day be like, I'm done. I'm quitting. Because I was so unhappy, and I couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy because I was doing all the right things. I acted out, and I drank too much, and I was not a very good person. Finally, when I was 29, I thought, I'm not going to be in business anymore. I actually went to social work school. I wanted to become a social worker. I actually wanted to help women figure out how to work better. And to pay the bills, I started freelancing. And this may resonate with many of you who either are still at a day job and feeling a little bit like, oh, is this really what I want? Or freelancing and trying to figure all the lovely joys of starting a freelance career. When I had the freedom to do the same work I had been doing in corporate America, but to do it on my own terms, at home, alone, in my pajamas, like a light went off. And I thought, this is how I want to work. This is me. And that was incredibly freeing. And I've never gone back. there have been choices and sacrifices along the way. Sometimes I always say I feel like a bad feminist because I'm not a big marketing exec at a large company, which was the track that I was on. I mean, I run my small business. But for me and my temperament and my introversion and my anxiety and the fact that I am a hermit entrepreneur who works in my yoga pants from home most of the time, it was the right choice.
You know, it's so interesting. Just for those of you who are just joining us, again, we're talking to Morra Aarons-Mele, the author of the book, Hiding in the Bathroom. By the way, we're going to be giving away a couple of copies of the book to the Facebook Live audience, and we're also taking questions from the Facebook Live audience. So if you have questions, do not be shy, and please, although I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to want to hog all the time with this woman. As a child, you wanted to be a media mogul. And you had a picture of Paramount Sheryl Sandberg on your wall.
Sherry Lansing, actually.
Oh, okay, sorry, not Cheryl.
Cheryl came later.
No, Cheryl came later. Sorry, that's right. Sherry Lansing. I'm going to get to Sheryl Sandberg in a second. Sherry Lansing, excuse me. Of course, Sheryl Sandberg. You couldn't have had a photo on her on your wall. And you really came to terms with the fact that that was not your path. So I kind of want to talk about those messages we get as young women of you can do it all, and we all have that image of I want to be.
Yes, right, and no matter what you do, right? So if you're a blogger, you want to be the ultimate. If you're working in marketing in a company, you want, you know, and I think also, and we were talking about your daughter, you know, who sounds like she's such an accomplished young woman, and the accomplished young woman trap is really tough. And if you actually look at the statistics for anxiety among young women in particular, it's astounding. It's an epidemic. Anxiety, depression, and I think that there's something happening with, and that this is an issue of privilege, right? Because we are privileged to be able to pursue the careers that we want and get educated. I totally admit that. But it's something we have to look at. And I think that part of the reason why I do talk about Sheryl Sandberg and lean in is that messages like hers are sometimes detrimental. If you do struggle with anxiety, if you feel that walking into an office where the dominant paradigm is extroversion and a bunch of people who never stop talking, and you go to brainstorming meetings and everyone is talking over each other, and you're forced to get out there and you're just wanting to network, and you constantly feel like emotionally you're bumping up against these barriers, and the only messages you're getting is that you just have to keep leaning in, like that's a problem. There are other ways to work, and it's okay to lean in less, frankly.
This is the part that for me was such an aha moment, because, you know, of course, this really, Sheryl's book was an anthem for so many of us. And of course, I promptly bought it and I handed it to my daughters, who I've been encouraging and perhaps putting pressure on from the time they left the womb, just so excited for this new generation. And that message of lean in may not be the message we should be giving our daughters. And it forced me to ask myself, maybe I should be leaning out. You know, I like this idea of let's launch a lean out movement. So talk to me a little bit more about how women can lean out and still be successful.
Well, I love how in the chair we're like doing ab exercises. We're leaning in and leaning out.
Here we go. Lean out.
Here's the thing, right? Is that it's too binary. It's not about leaning in or leaning out. I mean, you said it yourself when you first started your company. You were in your basement. There are we're taught that life is a career ladder like this, right? And that you climb the ladder. And again, this accomplished young women, that's what you do, right? You climb the ladder. Life is really sort of like this, you know, and some days it's like this, you're up and then you're down. I mean, I've had days as a small business owner when I've gotten a great new client. I write about this in the book. The same day that my agency was hired by the Obama campaign, I, through poor accounting, realized that I was many tens of thousands of dollars in debt to my line of credit. Oh shit. Sorry, can I say shit?
Of course, yes.
So the point is life is messy and your career is never going to be like this. And it's also hopefully not going to be like this. It's probably like this. And you got to compromise. And there's a season for everything. So I'm not saying lean in or lean out. I'm saying one year you might lean in. When I was young, I had many lean in years. Frankly, writing a book, mega leaning in. It's miserable. I hate it. But I know it'll be over and then I can take things down. So I just want us to compromise. I mean, I think we need to do a little bit less.
You talk about the cycle of achievement, and that again, there were so many kind of phrases in the book that triggered for me aha moments. So this notion that we really need to be in this cycle of achieve. And sometimes that does not make sense. You might need, what you talk about, that restorative germinative time.
Oops, sorry. I think the idea of germinative time, and however that works for you, I mean, it's funny because my dear friend and colleague Christine Koh, Boston Mamas, who I'm sure many of us know, she and her daughter bake, right? And they post these insane looking desserts on social media, which make me feel bad because I don't bake, and I don't like bake with my daughter, and I feel guilty. But for her, that's her restoration, that's her therapy. And so it's different for everyone, and I think we also have to understand that in social media because it's such a complicated equation. Like, me posting something online makes someone else feel bad and lesser, but I'm doing it for good reasons. I mean, I think that's something that we actually need to talk about, certainly as influencers. Like, are we cultivating FOMO? How are we responding to it? You know, because we see these images and they're powerful. But I think that great work has rarely gotten done in a loud meeting with everyone shouting over each other.
Well, you know, great shout out to Christine Koh. Maybe somebody will let Christine know that we're talking about her in the most loving way, and she'll join us. I understand.
She's all over the book, by the way, because she is a wise person.
Yeah, I love Christine Koh and her podcast. And you've been on her podcast.
Yes.
It's a great podcast. Edit Your Life. I love that podcast. So I understand that those of you who know me know I'm a pie baker, and people think I bake pies to eat them. I actually don't eat them. For me, pie baking, rolling out a crust is meditation. So as an extrovert, and the team makes fun of me, it's usually like, I think I had a crazy week this week, and what did I do? Tuesday night, I baked a pie.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
that just sounds exhausting. I wouldn't do it. It sounds exhausting.
And it looks like I'm an achiever, but the truth was that was my health. I needed to do something that the women before me did to calm down, which is bake, a pie crust. By the way, we will be giving away a copy of Hiding in the Bathroom. So and Whitney, who runs Everywhere Society, will decide who she's going to give it away to. If you want a copy, just beg in the comments. Definitely provide us some questions in the comments so that I'm not the one taking up all your time. The notion of FOMO, I found that really interesting because you would think as an introvert, oh, I'm happy because I get my alone time. I'm at home in my jammies, but you described as watching people online, and even though you're an introvert and you don't want to be there, you're still having FOMO, fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. And it's funny because I have it all the time, and even though I have made a very conscious choice to work at home and do my thing and say no to a lot of things, I do feel left out. And when I see my friends at conferences, getting published places, doing cool things, I do feel, I'm only human. I mean, I think that the feeling of sort of jealousy and envy is a very human feeling. We try to pretend like we don't have it, but of course we all do. And social media makes it very easy for us to constantly share and show off. And I think that actually as a small business owner, that's something that you have to do. And as an influencer also, you have to cultivate your online brand. You have to show how fabulous you are. That's why people hire you. I mean, like, we know that. We know that building a public profile means that people will hire us. And for me, if I can build a public profile on social media, I don't have to be on a plane. So it's awesome. As someone who works from home, if I can blog or get something posted that gets a lot of eyeballs, I'm at home doing that. It's amazing. So to me, it's a very double-edged sword. But
you said that you too also need to step away from social media.
I have to step away
because
from
it gets exhausting for you to constantly be on there. I mean, I think we underestimate how much it takes out of us to be sharing whatever on social media too. So how do you make sure you're taking those important breaks?
You can feel very naked. I mean, for me, I'm not, I'm very limited on social because as an introvert, it feels very demanding to engage a lot. which I'm sort of disappointed in myself, because I would actually like to be more out there and more conversational, and I have such respect for my friends who are, but I just can't do it. So I write. Like I do things or I do podcasts. Like I do social media in a way that is actually not that social. So I think it's knowing what kind of platform fits you, not just your voice, but your energy, right? If you come on and you do Facebook Lives, they take a lot of energy, they're very interactive, whereas doing, writing is more meditative, or making photography is more meditative. It's like your pie. So I think it's not just about taking physical time away, but picking the medium and the creative expression that fits you. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I just have to say, Morra, that's why I'm really honored you came in today, because you've got a big launch book event tonight in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So if you are tuning in and you're in Atlanta, I have no doubt you got the invite, because there's a roster of fabulous
powerhouse women
that are co-hosting this tonight. Titania Jordan, Catherine Stone, Jane Mossberger Morris, Rachel Fawcett. We're all co-hosting a book party. So the fact that you will take your energy today and share it with this Facebook audience, and for some reason I can't see if there are any questions, but if there are, Whitney has a question.
Mostly just a lot of excited comments.
No, that's nice.
No direct question.
So please, if you have a question for Morra, ask a question, and please let us know if you want a copy of the book, because we at Everywhere Agency, we've purchased multiple copies. We gave away a bunch in society. The competition was fierce to get a copy of this book.
I love seeing everyone's tweets. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
And for me, just the pathway of women being online and then actually going to old-fashioned print paper, I think it's
hefty though. It's like, it's fun. It feels,
yes, it's powerful.
It's substantive.
Yeah. You wrote in your book something so interesting. You said, I like to think anxiety and I are business partners, frequently negotiating, arguing, and creating great work. So what kind of negotiation have you had to make with anxiety to put this book out there? Because you don't just write a book, it has to be publicized. So talk to me about that negotiation. What does that look like?
Every day I have a negotiation. Every day I want to cancel something, whether it's a phone call or a podcast interview, or something that forces me to get out of my comfort zone. I have social anxiety, and so sometimes even if I'm working at home, like picking up the phone, having a conversation, doing an interview, is my instinct is to cancel it. Mm-hmm. And so I have to say, no, stop. You're not canceling it. You're going to do it. So every day, I've been flying a lot. I've been doing a lot of events, which I'm honored and blessed to be able to do. But every day it's like I'm getting to the airport and I want to change the flight. I want to go home early. I mean, this is how I am all the time, actually.
And added to that, you do have a driving reason to want to go home. You've got an amazing husband, mm-hmm. and 3 beautiful children.
And my children who are little. And I'm anxious. I get scared being out in the world. So I think for me though, what I do is I ground myself into meaning. I literally ground myself into meaning. I did this on the tarmac yesterday. The weather was bad and the captain came on. He's like, it's going to be a rough flight. And I'm like, oh God. I mean, my meds hadn't kicked in yet. And so I say to myself, why am I doing this? And this is a helpful technique. You can try it too. I'm doing this because I've worked really hard on this book, and I told myself I was going to give myself to the end of the year, and I'm not saying no. I'm doing this because people have invited me and they're expecting me. I'm doing this because I have to earn a living. I have to help put 3 kids through college. Grounding yourself in the meaning and not letting the anxiety win is an important step, because if the anxiety wins, the anxiety is lying. I interviewed this wonderful writer, Ashley Ford, on my podcast 2 days ago, and she said, anxiety is a liar. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And so I think that, being in negotiation with your anxiety is also trying not to let it win, which is hard.
Okay, folks, I hope that last series of comments was a knowledge bomb for you. It was for me. And
many years of therapy there distilled into 30 seconds.
And I think also you and I sitting here, and I'm sure people look at both of us and say, oh, look at them. And really understanding that we all have that internal dialogue with, I call it the baggage in my head. The shoulda, coulda, woulda that goes on in your head every day. The I can't do it.
Or why didn't I do it?
Yeah.
Or why did someone else do it? Or, all these feelings. And the thing is, these feelings they're natural. We all have them.
I think your book must be so powerful for bloggers and influencers because, of course, those of us who've been in this space, as long as both you and I have been, have all had that experience where you know somebody online and they're just like festive and fascinating and witty and charming and just incredible diatribes and commentary, and then you're at a conference and like you meet them and they're like and I think there is something about being out there digitally, we're comfortable with that, and then in real life it's like, oh, I'm not the person I portray online. So maybe talk about how writers, it's natural for us to look a certain way
Absolutely.
but behave another way.
And that's why the internet is such a gift. I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, my early jobs were at iVillage.com way back in the day, and we had message boards. And the best community managers were the most introverted people, and they
Absolutely.
found their voice. Well, you guys are laughing.
I'm a community manager, and I'm very much an introvert.
Right. You come to life from behind the screen.
Exactly.
It's funny because my husband loves to do FaceTimes with our family on the weekends, and so he dials up the family on FaceTime, and then he like sticks the iPad in my face, and I feel violated. That is too personal for me. It is my Sunday. I am on the couch. I do not want to interact in that way. And so I think there's something beautiful about those of us who are in online community, because we interact on our terms and we can also step away. And that's why video makes me a little nervous, because it feels like it's breaking that wall that many of us have worked so hard to cultivate.
Yes.
But that's okay. I'm coming to terms with it. So I think the internet and social media and our community in particular is so beautiful for many of us that way.
I think let's go back to the definition of introvert. And my team actually reminds me of this. I've got a few introverts on staff, and they are witty and funny. And Kelly, who's on my team, is a self-described introvert. If you met her, you would say, absolutely not. Kelly's like a comedian. She should be on SNL. And Kelly always says to me, Danica, introvert does not equal shy.
That's right. Or quiet.
Okay, so talk about that. Help us extroverts understand.
Well, and actually, I have a handy quiz in the first couple pages of the book. There's no blood test for being an introvert, right? So it's not like I can take a pinprick out of my. I think that you probably are an introvert if you feel you restore and get your energy back by being alone. If you crave a quiet space after being in a busy office all day, if bright lights and loud noises make you feel a little bit sort of overstimulated. It's almost a sensory experience as much as it is, am I quiet or am I shy? It's also, I think, this sense of being happy with yourself and truly drawing peace and energy, not all the time, with being by yourself. And I think that's an amazing thing. Again, I come back to the fact that a lot of the great discoveries in humankind have not been made in a loud, brightly lit office pod. We need time to be alone and think. We need one-on-one time, and we need alone time. And one of my biggest hopes for my children is that they like being with themselves. I think that's a gift that I can give them as an introvert.
And unfortunately, in today's parenting world, we're told, oh, ballet, what are your kids into?
Right.
Ballet, soccer,
Collaborative.
da-da-da. And it's kind of like, well, what if they're just into being home on the weekend and playing with their Legos? And
yeah. And look, life as an introvert is also about sort of accepting inside that you're going to get sludged for it. I mean, I still do. And you know, if I go on trips or I go on business trips and I'm sort of like, I don't want to go to dinner tonight, people think I'm not that nice. You know, that's just how we are conditioned as people. And so I think part of it is also for us introverts, you know, to really own what we need and also turn it on when we have to, because, you know, you got to get out there, you got to sell, you got to pitch if you run a business, certainly. But I think for extroverts to also understand it's not personal, and that you have much to learn from us, because what we're really good at is we are very good at tuning into people. We're good at absorbing. We're good at reading cues. We're great at sales because we're really good at sort of figuring out what's going on underneath the surface and solving problems. It's a yin and a yang thing.
Yeah, and I will definitely say as an extrovert, I think that is number one learning, is that when an introvert, because I definitely, it took me a long time, I thought, they're really mean.
Right, they're stuck up. What's wrong with that?
We're in the middle of conversation and they turn away and they say, I have to do this. And you're like, you know, so I think really, and what would you say to an extrovert in terms of being a better friend or a better communicator with you?
I'm a big believer in talking it out. You know, I mean, it's funny because my husband and I, after many years together, have set ground rules. He's an extrovert.
Oh, so, your husband's an extrovert.
Mega.
Oh my goodness.
And so, like, his ideal weekend would be dinner party, breakfast party, cocktail party. I mean, like, blah, 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 blah. And so, of course, I don't want to see anyone all weekend. And so we've had to set ground rules. We have dinner party ground rules. I'm allowed to leave after 90 minutes. He can stay if he chooses. And this has evolved over many years, but in a work relationship, I think it's really clear to sort of not only explain I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, but this is what triggers me. Mm-hmm. So here's an example. We're traveling to see a client, or we're going to a big conference, and I'm going to do the cocktail party. I have a panel. I'm going to be on for 5 hours. I love you, but then I'm going to really need an hour by myself, 2 hours. It's not personal. Can you cover for me? I mean, having an adopted extrovert sort of wing person is amazing.
I love that.
I really recommend it.
This is going to be my next job.
Totally. Right.
Because I also love to help people. So this would be a perfect job for me. I could be the extrovert to the introvert.
Right. You could go cover that cocktail party
Absolutely.
for me.
Oh my gosh. I have not been paying attention to the audience. I'm so sorry, but I see some of my really good friends are there. Letitia Barr has just joined.
Hi,
Kiwi, I love. So it's great to see all you. I can't see everybody who's there, but I guess one of the questions we have from our audience are just, I'm going to a conference. I'm going to a situation that's a trigger. Tips for survival tips. Aside from, of course,
well, and also you can go to my website and download. I have a 16-point plan to surviving a professional conference, which has been written over many years of attending conferences. So plan. You have to have a plan, and you have to have a goal. I think that I always say I'm like a dog. If I have a job, I'm fine. And if I just show up sort of aimlessly, and I've talked to many like famous, powerful introverts who feel the same, who say, I can go talk to a stadium of 5,000 people and I'm great because I know what I'm supposed to say. I'm on script. I'm working. Get me off stage for a meet and greet and I'm jelly because I don't have a purpose. So the key, I think, is really making a schedule. Like if you're going to a conference, if you're going to a blogging conference or whatever, you know, looking through the schedule, here's what I have to attend. Because I want to, I'm going to see friends, it's good for business. Last year when I went, I met great people. I actually look retroactively at my calendar and I look at what I went to in a year and I think, this was really helpful, this was a waste of time. And if it was a waste of time, I don't do it, right? Because I'm sort of ruthlessly strategic about my goals. So who do I want to meet, what am I going to go to, and what can I skip? And then sticking to it and building in the rest time. And if all of a sudden you're feeling absolutely exhausted and someone says to you, oh, come on, or I get this all, you know, like just one more drink, or, you know, come on, everyone's going, like we're in our 40s, but like we still sometimes act like we're in middle school. You have to also be able to say, I'm good. And that I still have a hard time with. So having a plan, being strategic, knowing when you can stay home or in your room, in your hotel room, building in rewards. And I also think sort of having like an extrovert cover for you. Like Christine Coe, who we work together, I know she's so happy to be out there. And so I can get all the gossip and the goodies from her, and I'm like watching Netflix.
Now you mentioned something I do want to touch on, because we're talking about being an introvert, we're talking about anxiety, and you mentioned the having a drink. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, definitely there's some dangers when you add substance and anxiety. So do you want to talk about that, or do we touch on that?
Well, I mean, only to say that I think managing your intake is like managing your energy, and thinking about that too. I mean, I'm definitely the kind of person who, for me, alcohol is a lubricant. It makes me calm down. It literally makes me unclench. I just wrote an article today on the website Feller about that, about how as someone who has migraines, I grew sort of dependent on having a drink at the end of the day because it would literally make me unclench. But I think we need to think about, like, am I going to get anxious? Am I going to say things that I might regret? The other thing I wanted to say is if you feel nervous about being in situations like a conference, asking questions is a really good tactic. Many of us hate small talk and we feel nervous about it. So I think having a strategy of, I'm going to stay at this party for an hour, I'm going to meet 3 people or get 3 business cards if it's a work event, and then just sort of asking people simple questions, instead of worrying about your conversation, your worth being there, which a lot of us do. Flip the script and ask questions. People love it.
So one other thing you wrote about in the book is this concept of growth and compromise. And that, again, was a huge knowledge bomb for me because, again, we typically focus on growth. But you've come to terms with the fact in your career that growth doesn't necessarily mean bigger, faster, empire building. So, and the notion of really compromising, and compromise not being a bad word.
No, compromise is a gift.
Yes.
Totally. I actually, it's so funny and here's me being FOMO. Like, I was in the Wall Street Journal talking about how I keep my business very deliberate and small, and I write about this in the book. I think knowing what drives you, and I have a chart in the book that I think is really helpful. Many of us are income maximizers, whether we have to be or whether we are driven by money, and that is not a judgment. Money is great. Many of us are passion maximizers, right? We want work that makes us feel meaningful, that makes us feel like we're making a contribution in the world, that really gets us excited. I'm a flexibility maximizer. For me, I am very proud to say that I have set up my business while ticking the box on passion and income that allows me to maximize flexibility. And then some people are prestige maximizers. When I worked in Washington, D.C., this was mostly people I worked with. They wanted to be able to walk into a room and say, I know so-and-so, I work for so-and-so. And so I think that a fun exercise to do is to actually think about what drives you. And again, you might have different drivers at different points in your life. If you have to pay for college, you might be maximizing income for a while. If you're done with all that or whatever.
Yeah, I was definitely on that
right
for
right
about 10 years.
It's real. So, again, there are seasons for all of this. But I think thinking about what really drives you and knowing what you have to have versus what you're willing to give up is a great exercise. And we do that in the book, and we lay it out. Because once you know, I need to earn a certain amount of money, I want to be able to work from home a certain amount of days, or I need this level of control over my schedule, but I'm willing to give up a title, or I'm willing to give up X, Y, and Z in order to get what I need, you're much better able to set up a structure that works.
I think I love this book so much. For me, this book could have had half a dozen different titles. And of course, because we have potty of some sort in the title, to me, this is the business book this year to read.
Wow, thank you.
Because ultimately in the book, you weave the story of how you defined a career for you. Yeah. You call it a hermit entrepreneur. which I absolutely love. And I think it's so important when you're forging your path that you ask those questions.
Absolutely.
Do I function well if I'm in a large office setting? And in your case, showing up and doing the time card doesn't work for you.
Oh my gosh. And I'm obsessed with sales reps, like pharmaceutical sales reps. This is a career that is an incredibly flexible career, and it's perfect for ambitious introverts because you might go see a doctor's office and you're on and you're giving your sales pitch, but then guess what? You go back to your car, you have like 2 hours, you're driving, you're doing emails or whatever, and then you go see someone again. So I love thinking about, no one ever says to you, what do you want to do all day? They say, what do you want to be? What kind of career do you want to have? What do you want to study? But for me, the job is about the nitty gritty. Do I want to be in an office all day talking to people, or do I want to be alone? Do I want to talk to people 1 day a week and be alone 3 days a week? These are the things that we should be thinking about.
And it's interesting for me as an extrovert, I tried being a solopreneur. And it absolutely doesn't work for me because I need the energy of other people. When I'm a solopreneur, I end up doing the laundry. I literally cannot do the work. I mean, I'll do the laundry and then I'll decide that the tile in my bathroom needs to be scrubbed and I'll get out bleach. And
You're a putterer.
But for me, being around other people is so important. And then just, even though I am an extrovert, I do have trouble promoting myself. So that, I mean, I force myself to do it, but ultimately I have a team I'm responsible for. So that responsibility to the team is what pushes me out
Very
there.
motivating. Also, can I just say that it probably makes you a better negotiator. All the data show that for women, because we are conditioned not to promote ourselves, it's hard for us. But when we are out there negotiating on behalf of other people who care about, again, grounding into meaning, why am I doing this? We get more.
Right.
So it's actually a really good tactic you're doing.
And the meaning for me are these amazing
Absolutely.
girl bosses at Everywhere Agency that those of you who are in society definitely work with on the day-to-day, and know that what my passion and commitment around them is. But let's talk about sleep, because I am a big sleeper. I need 9 hours, and we talked about this. If I don't have my full night's sleep, then I just start blabbering and I forget words, and you too as an introvert. So extroverts, introverts, we both need a lot of sleep.
I think some people just need a lot of sleep and some people don't, right? I mean, I never get enough sleep because I have children in my bed still, but my dream is more sleep. But take your sleep. If you're the kind of person who needs a lot of sleep, I mean, sleep is something that we build guilt around because we're supposed to not sleep, but that's crap. All the data show that like sleep is actually essential to your functioning. And so in a healthy society, we would be able to tell our bosses, I didn't get enough sleep last night. Can I stay and come into work late? Unfortunately, we don't live in that world, but it's actually, you'd do a better job if you did.
I know that we've got quite a few comments. Is there anybody, Whitney, that really needs a copy of this book?
Yes, I think.
Whitney's on the other side here.
Hello. I think that Vanessa needs a copy.
And what's Vanessa's last name?
Oh, Morra Rosado.
Oh, hey, Vanessa. Okay, so just DM us. Let us know your address.
Sign it.
Yeah, we're going to sign it. We'll send you a copy. That's fantastic. And for all the mommies out there like Vanessa, let's just talk about our children and raising our children. It's too late for me. So remember, I had my kids in the 90s, and we were the parents that, well, let me put it this way. The big trend when we had babies was to put a lot of black and white things in their crib so they could recognize shapes. And we were like the baby genius generation. And we were like, okay, let's work on the ba sound. Ba, 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 ba. I remember looking at a mom. She'd come over to a cocktail party at my house, and so I was drinking. And she sat on the floor with her child, and she's like, we're working on the ba sound. And I was like,
at a party?
We're drinking, okay, you know. So, and then I thought, oh, slacker mom, I should be working on the ba sound with my child. So we were really pushing our children, these children of the 90s. So you're a mom, and of course we don't have the answers, but given what you know now, what do you feel like you really want to do with your children?
I mean, I have so much mom guilt, so I definitely don't have the answers, but
Who doesn't?
I mean, so
okay,
much.
is there anybody out there that doesn't have mom guilt? Please tell me if you don't. That's Ellen in my office. She's the mom of 2 teenage daughters, and she's laughing out loud because mom guilt is real, people. Oh, hey, Stephanie Gilbert, did you hear that we're giving away copies? And also, Stephanie, ask a question if you have one, because there might be some great questions for Morra that I have not asked yet.
Well, so yeah, if you don't have mom guilt, you should write a book. But I will say that a gift I want to give my kids is the gift of liking being with themselves. And again, Christine Ko's Minimalist Parenting that she co-wrote with Asha Dornfest is really good at this. I think it's okay. My kids and I have a lot of slob time. We have a lot of alone together time where we're all like reading or doing our own thing, but we're in the same area. I don't think that it's our job to be responsible for occupying our kids' brains all the time. That's just my bias, because I know that for me, my mom was always saying that being bored is a good thing, and if you're bored, shut up. It means, go find something to do. And I sort of subscribe to that. Like, I think that being in your own head can be really incredible, and being with yourself and thinking and being quiet. So that's sort of my
it's so
philosophy.
interesting you talk about children and being bored and occupying all their time. I do have a trick for making sure your children are bored. And I grew up going to church every single Sunday, and we belong to the Presbyterian Church, and there's absolutely nothing more boring than a Presbyterian preacher. So for an hour and a half every Sunday, I was bored to death. And I think it really trained me how to sit for an hour and a half. And when I had my own children, I actually ended up marrying a Jewish man, and we raised our children Jewish. And I was so shocked when you go to services in a synagogue, people get up and walk in and out and leave, and they step outside and they come back in and they talk on their way in and out, And I was like, and so my kids never had that experience of, you are going to sit there and you're going to hold the prayer book and you're going to keep your feet on the floor and you're not going to move.
That's
so
right.
That's my tip. Take your children to a very boring church. Don't do Baptist. Don't do anything with a lot of singing. Presbyterian, hour and a half every Sunday, and they will learn how to be super bored. So there I am, proselytizing.
I love it. I love it. My Unitarian church is definitely not boring.
Right.
But I sit there and when I'm in church, is when I have my thoughts, or like when I walk by myself. I think just cultivating being quiet, it's so hard. Like, put the phone away and just be with yourself.
So many incredible knowledge bombs. Whitney, do we want to give away any more books?
Alina! Hi, Alina!
Alina, do you have a copy of the book? How about if we give one to Alina? We love her. I love Alina. She is really devoted to issues and causes and went with everywhere on a cause trip to Haiti. It was the only trip to Haiti I didn't go on. It was led by Letitia Barr, and you have given so much back to the artisans in Haiti with your online efforts. That I think we should send one to Alina too. We're just kind of being random. Honestly, anybody, just let us know if you want a copy of the book. I really want to support this book. Amira, oh my goodness, of course. Oh, I think I saw you early on. Hey, beautiful, you're extraordinary. So now I'm worried that, of course, as an extrovert, now I'm worried. Oh, have we recognized everybody? So I want to really be careful with your energy that you're giving to this Facebook audience. One of the things about Facebook Live, particularly with our community that we found, and with Everywhere Society, is a lot of people come on later and watch the Facebook Live, so they might have questions. Would it be okay if they had questions after the Facebook Live that we brought them back to you? Of
course. Oh my gosh, please. It's an honor to be here. And so you can follow me on Facebook, Morra Aarons-Mele. You can ask me on Twitter. You can just put on page, and I'm sure Danica and her team will get the questions to me. And you can also go to hidinginthebathroom.com. And if you sign up for my newsletter, sorry, I have to plug.
Oh, please do.
You will get my FOMO PDF, How to Ban FOMO, which is very good, and the 16-point guide to surviving a professional conference PDF.
Oh, I think that's phenomenal, and I think the more resources for us as women, the better. But also, don't just think of this book as a book for introverts. It's truly, I think, a book for women to ask, what kind of life, how do you want to define your life? Are you on the achievement porn train?
Oh my God.
And if so, why?
Why?
And the FOMO piece, and...
Well, and I have to pull out my favorite.
Yes.
Okay, so this is how nitty gritty. This is for all of you business owners, solopreneurs. We scope budgets and client budgets, and we figure out, how are you going to pay for your amazing life? I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Oh my gosh, God bless you. And when you figure it out, please
Yeah,
let
right.
me know. So I do also think the issue around FOMO, don't look at these other people that seem to be having it all. My mother used to have a phrase, which was, if you put all your problems in a bag with everybody else's, you'd pull your problems out really quick. So think about it. That person you envy, that person you admire, really put her problems in a bag and think about yours, and you're going to pull yours out very, very quickly. And a lot of times I've done that exercise when I had envy. Oh, look at her, look what she's doing. I think, do I really want her problems? No. You know, we all have burdens to bear and issues that we face in getting to where we're getting. And you know, again, if there is somebody that wakes up every morning and goes, ta-da, I'm so excited to join the world, please tell me what that secret is.
Your secret.
And if there's an easy way to do it, gosh, I'd love to know that too. You know, many days, I think all of us, our mantra is fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. And I think also if you have anxiety, if you have depression, knowing that there are the days when it just feels hard to talk, literally. You know, you do learn over time that it's a day. And it won't always be like that.
And realizing that you are not alone. We just touched on anxiety, but the depression piece, Tom Johnson, who was the head of CNN, Ted Turner's right-hand man, grew CNN from Chicken Noodle Network to the giant it is. And an ebullient, forceful man admitted shortly before he retired that he suffered from crippling depression, and he had a large office with a closet in it, and some days, and he's a big man, he would curl himself up in a ball in the office closet, and he wrote a book about it. I can't remember the name of the book. It's Tom Johnson.
I have to look that up.
So,
oh my gosh,
you know, there are so many, you know, famous people in business, in art, who suffer from many, many issues. So, you know, we're all on a spectrum, and I do think in terms of our spectrum, the extrovert, the introvert, let's do the leaning, there's real similarities. And Morra, I just want to say I'm so grateful to you for joining, for sharing with our audience, with the Everywhere Society and the Everywhere Agency audience. And I really look forward to coming to this event tonight. And please go get some of that restorative time, because you're going to be on stage.
I actually have to go give a speech now, but that's okay. I've got a plan.
Okay, good.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye everybody.